Hello and welcome to The Baby. I'm Ed Gannon. And today we've got two guests. And the reason for that is not only that they're the youngest of 8 children, but they're best friends. So, Angela, welcome.
Hi, Ed.
And Lisa, welcome.
Oh, hi, Ed. Thanks for having us.
No, that's fantastic. I'm glad that you're actually both together. So, we'll kick off first. Angela, to you.
Yep.
Tell us about your family.
Okay, so my name's Angela Rodderhan. I am the youngest of 8 kids. Actually, there was 9 kids, but Mum and Dad lost their first-born child. And so 8 of us growing up together on a farm in Denison, 4 boys, 4 girls. There was 5 under 5, and then a little gap, and then 3 more.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the gap. So what's it between you and the oldest? What's the
12 years.
12 years,
yep.
Right. Lisa, tell us about yours.
Very similar to Ange, youngest of 8, and there were 4 boys and 4 girls as well. My parents were from Melbourne and they embarked upon living in different country towns across Victoria, including Yarrawonga and Warragul. So I was born in Warragul along with sort of half of my siblings, and then we ended up moving to Torquay when I was 6. So kind of spanned a few different regions of Victoria, but there are 14 years between my eldest brother and myself being the baby of that family. And, yeah, lots of fun times.
And you're 4 and 4 as well?
Yes, we are.
Right. So when you met each other, were you like penguins, where you just walked through a pack and then you're sending out youngest of 8 vibes, 4 and 4, and you finally met each other?
Yeah, I don't think we could believe it. And, you know, sometimes other people in the workplace, if you told them your family set up, they'd go, what? That's crazy. And so when I met Ange, it was like, hey, you're normal.
Yes.
You're one of us.
So Lisa and I were working at ANZ together, and Lisa was sitting behind me and I was new, and I think we must have done a bit of like, you know, oh, hi, I'm this, I'm that, and eventually it came down to, oh, I've got 8 brothers and sisters, or 7 brothers and sisters, oh, me too, oh, I've got 4 and 4, oh, me too,
There
I've got curly hair.
Yeah,
me too.
You found your tribe. So, and describe growing up as being the youngest of a large family.
So, the words that come to mind are things like really noisy and busy and lots of activity. Like there was 8 of us, but because we were on a farm, there was always extra people coming and going. So I'm just used to big numbers. Like for me, if I don't have a lot of people sitting around the dinner table, it feels a bit strange. Like I kind of like being in a bigger group. And, you know, we didn't have a very big house. We had a soldier settlement house, so there was 3 bedrooms, and that was Mum and Dad's room, a boy's room and a girl's room. And being like the youngest, I slept in a bed in Mum and Dad's room for quite a few years of my life. And eventually, I guess, by the time I was old enough to move out of there, someone had moved out of home, or there was a new room built on, or something had happened and we were able to spread out a bit. So, I mean, I don't really remember it being uncomfortable or squashy or anything. That's just the way it was. And, you know, a lot of fun. And being on a farm, there was always jobs to be done. So the boys sort of had their jobs to help Dad, and we had our jobs around the house to help Mum. And what else can I tell you? Yeah, just a lot of fun and probably chaos at the same time.
Yeah. You mentioned soldier settlement, which is the small little farms that were chopped up after the war, and people got it. So they're not big farms with not big houses on them.
No.
Yeah.
And not very well built houses. Like they were cold in winter and they were hot in summer. And, the kitchen certainly, there was no dinner around the kitchen table because the kitchen was small and we wouldn't all fit. I don't think we even all ate at the same time. I don't know where everybody was, but it was sort of done in batches, half that way, half that way.
Yeah. Describe growing up as the youngest in a large family for you.
Yeah. Look, I was talking about this earlier, but my 2 oldest brothers were sent off to boarding school. And so I don't remember a lot of those oldest 2, Jerry and Mick, being around when I was little. I mean, they were when I was really little, but then sort of from when I was in prep, you know, they were already out sort of doing their thing in the world. One was at Teachers College and one was working. So I do feel like it was probably the sort of the six of the kids that I sort of remember being at home, having dinner, being there in the mornings, going off to school and being around most of the time, with the two older ones sort of, a little bit out of the picture more for me. But certainly it was very exciting when they did come home, and it was like a really special occasion. And we just wanted to hear all their stories and, find out what life was like outside of the family home. But thinking about the family home where I, was little and lived until I was 6 in Warragul, Dad actually built that with my uncle. And I don't know if that was to save money at the time, but he was a school teacher, not a builder or anything. So that was interesting. But they, like what Ange was saying, I think it was 3 bedrooms. We had bunks, and we used to jump from, the top of the triple bunk to the other triple bunk, things like that. Running up and down the hallway was entertainment for us. And there was only one toilet in that house, but Mum had sort of thought about this for some time, and they did end up putting in an extra toilet. But, these days people can't imagine, I guess, living in a house of 10 people and one toilet. But, that sort of stuff, you just made it work. And we had a very big backyard, and you were always outside there and just kicking the footy in the street with the neighbours and that sort of thing.
How many were in the bedroom for you, Lisa? How many would you...
Well, there would have been 4 of us. 4 of us. So the 4 girls, all in the one bedroom.
Yeah,
that's what I remember.
Well, we did a renovation at some point in my life, maybe when I was about 10 or 12. That was pretty fancy. So we knocked down walls and made a big communal kitchen lounge area. And the old lounge room became the bedroom for myself and my sister and another family or friend that was living with us, like another sister, basically. But it was the old lounge room. So it was pretty big. Felt very fancy. But by that time, we'd built on the porch and the boys' room out beyond the porch. So, we changed the house a bit. But originally, it was literally girls' room, boys' room, and me in with Mum and Dad.
Did you have sheds out there that then sort of doubled as when people went, like siblings went and stayed out in the sheds?
No, we built on to the house.
Yeah.
So the laundry and toilet were outside, so they built that in somehow. And that was then, there was a big pool table in the middle, a dartboard. It was the rumpus room. And many times I remember going out to go to the toilet, and the boys like kicking a big ball of socks made into a football into your head as you went out to go to the toilet, or someone taking a specky on your back as you tried to get through. But that new rumpus room, which was very basic, we're talking cladding and concrete floor kind of thing. Dad may have even built it. I don't know. Had a lot of fun in there, because on a Sunday night we'd have families come over, the Woodies would come over, there'd be a stack of people, and Mum would somehow just turn out this roast for 30-odd people, and or more, I have no idea. And we'd play Cali Pool, where you pull a number out and you had to be eliminated. Oh, that was just so much fun.
So did you have any siblings who went away to boarding school, or were they all there together?
No, we were all there together.
Yeah.
But I don't, like Lisa, I don't really remember us all being there at the one time, because I'd say my eldest brother, Tony, may have gone down to Teachers College by the time I can kind of remember. Yeah, and also, but I do remember us all going to school at some point, and the kitchen bench just being laden with brown paper bags with meat sandwiches and jam sandwiches and Vegemite sandwiches, and then occasionally someone would take the wrong bag and there'd be chaos. You get to school and you've opened up the wrong brown paper bag.
And were the sandwiches frozen?
No.
Ours were frozen.
Yeah.
And I used to swap mine with Brendan Allman, so he would give me his and I'd give him mine, and because someone else's sandwiches always tasted better.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Just going to school, you would have caught the bus to school?
Did, yep, from the front gate.
Right.
Every morning for my primary school and secondary school. And Dad would be at the milking shed and he'd yell, "Bus coming down the road," and we'd all grab our bags and start running down to the gate through the puddles and all of that jazz. And apparently, because I was quite small when I was little, apparently they had to throw the school bag up first, and then I had to try to climb up onto the bus myself, because I only went to school at 4 and a bit. So I was pretty keen to get to school because I was pretty bored at home without the kids there. And apparently, like I can even remember little noises. It might have been a milking, like a gate swinging open, like a squeaking noise. And I'd be like to Mum, is that the bus? No, it wasn't the bus. They're not home yet.
Did you, when you first went to school, was there much to do about it? Like, or did you, being the youngest, did you just go to school the first day?
Yeah, I don't really remember, but I know my brother ended up marrying one of the girls that was then in grade 6. So she talks about when I started school and how cute I was and how they all wanted to play with me and all that kind of stuff. But I know when I ended up at high school, I can't remember the teacher's name. I'll try and think of it. But he was like, at the sports day, he called out my name. He goes, "Not another bloody Riderhan." He was an American teacher. So, yeah, scraping the barrel when you got to me. But, but I was, pretty keen to get to school because I was lonely at home without the kids.
Lisa?
I was keen to get to school too, and so keen, in fact, Dad being a school teacher, that I used to go with him before I actually started prep. We used to go to all these little country schools in Gippsland, so I remember Poowong was one because, as a kid that was a pretty funny name. And, I'd sit up the front of these little country schools, which sometimes only had 12 kids, and Dad would be one teacher teaching the whole school. And you might know these schools better than I do, but anyway, that's my memory. And, I'd sit up at the front of the front of the classroom, and I'd be trying to work along beside the other kids doing their work.
So you had a pseudo entry into school. So your first day of school wouldn't have been, it wasn't a big hoo-ha or anything like that. It would have been pretty just out you go and go.
Yep.
You would have done your apprenticeship already before you did grade prep.
Yeah, exactly. I just remember being able to sort of read and write, or at least trying to keep up with the other kids and pretend that I could.
Yeah. The thing about turning up to school and you've been preceded by others, and so you live and die on their reputation. So did you ever come across that in primary school, or was it a good thing for that to have others at the school at the same time for you?
There's only really about 2 others, I think, when I was at school, and I don't think they really... Yeah, it was not a big deal that I was there. But, having been part of that Catholic school community and going to church every Sunday, it was that was our community. So it didn't feel too foreign, I don't think.
Yeah.
It just felt like a natural progression as to what you do next. But, I also went to kinder, and a lot of the kids didn't go to kinder because I guess they didn't need to. They had everybody at home to play with. Maybe the last couple of us went to kinder, but I definitely did. And Mum was like, I don't know, I couldn't get them to kinder. Like, I just couldn't get there. Living on a farm out of town, imagine bundling up 5 kids to drop one at kinder. It just,
a couple of hours.
Yeah, it wasn't going to happen.
Whereas I was the opposite. All of mine went to kinder, the older ones, but I didn't because I just went to school with Dad.
Oh, so that was your kinder?
Yeah, I think Mum had had enough of kinder by that stage, and she had been a kinder teacher herself. I think she thought, oh, you don't need kinder, just start school.
And the other end of school, the last year, and this is probably a theme that I go back to, how did you handle that in the sense of you were the last one?
Yeah, well, it's funny that you say that, Ed. There's a photo of myself and my nephew. He was starting grade prep and I was in year 12 because we were actually closer in age than me and my eldest sibling. So that always felt quite significant to me. Everyone else had sort of, done and dusted, and I don't think anyone even was at uni then. So it was sort of like everyone was sort of out in the world doing stuff. Most of my siblings had left home or they were working, or clearly one of my brothers, he was married with kids, and it was so exciting when someone drove into the driveway again, and it's like, oh, wow. And they're back and tell us your stories. And so it seemed like everybody else had sort of, moved on to other things.
Yeah. And did that things like do your homework, or career choice, all that sort of stuff?
Mum and Dad had no idea of what I was doing, I don't think. So isn't that funny? Because, I'm probably helicopter mum now, and my kids might hear this and just go, God, your childhood's different to what you do to us, Mum. But, they wouldn't have had a clue. They were just like, oh, you'll work it out. Oh, yeah, you want to go to uni? Okay, sure. It was sort of like I'd just be doing whatever, and they really didn't have much of an idea, really. They certainly didn't advise me or say do this or, we think, you should do, this difficult maths or whatever. They just let me work it out.
Did they ever ask if you'd done your homework?
No, I don't reckon they ever did.
Yeah. You're laughing, Angela. Tell me about you at the end of school.
Same for me. Although I guess I had a bit more because I had mum and dad to myself, although maybe my brother Paul was there as well. I did have those one-on-one conversations with mum and dad, or particularly mum, what should I do? What about this? Talk about uni and that sort of thing. So maybe I got a bit more advice than some of the others. But yeah, definitely no checking in or worrying about how I was doing. It was just sort of just get it done. But I was thinking about year 7, because when I was in year 7, I became an auntie, and I remember being really crying at the dinner table, feeling really miffed. I think big change in your life starting year 7, and all this focus was on this baby. And I remember mum and dad saying, "What's wrong? Do you want to go back to grade 6?" But I think just deep down I didn't know how to process all this, and I love my niece dearly. She's very, very close to me. But, it was just a big change in my life. And I'd been the baby the whole time. And then all of a sudden little Christy came along and took the limelight. So
you didn't get much time in the spotlight.
Yeah.
You're talking about you had as a nephew or a niece?
Nephew.
How old were you been when he was born?
I was in year 7 as well, so 12. And I remember wagging school and saying, I don't feel well, and staying home pretending that I was sick because I wanted to hang out with the baby, because I'd never been around a baby. All the other siblings could kind of remember a baby, a cousin or something, but I was the youngest, not just of my family, but of all our cousins as well. And so they'd, and so, they'd talk about babies, this and babies that. And I'm thinking, well, I've never been around a baby, and I just want to stay home and, play and have cuddles and, just it was fascinating to me to have a younger person.
I was in grade 4 when I had our first nephew.
Oh, gosh.
And I don't think I touched him or nursed him until he was about 2 years old. Because A, I never got to go, and B, I was a bit worried about what to do with him.
Oh.
So, because I was still that close in age. Well, I was 8 years old, just over 8 years, just on 8 years difference. So I wasn't quite sure what to do.
Yeah.
Oh.
I didn't know that, Lise, that you're the youngest, because I'm also the youngest grandchild on the Rotherham side of 40 grandchildren. And my Tilly, my baby, is the youngest Rotherham grandchild too.
Yeah, well, that makes sense because my daughter is the youngest of the Gannon sides of things, so that makes sense in there. So.
Can I go back, Ed, to the finishing school?
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
To finishing school?
I don't know how to frame
in
this.
Switzerland, yeah.
You can frame this for us, but I was our school captain, right, which was a bit of a hoot for everybody in the family. And when I was 21, all my siblings did a speech. They all said a little verse. And there was this verse that they read out, and I'm just making this up a bit as we go along, but something about we were all good at school, we'd all done all right, we'd all gathered a prize at the annual speech night. But then came a phone call, oh, what a blast. Angie came through, school captain at last. So I think that was a bit of a nice way. I don't know whether the school just felt sorry for the Rotherhams and thought, let's give one of them the school captain job. But so now my ugly photo is still on the wall at John 23rd, and my nieces and nephews, and now my great nieces and nephews go there and they see my name up on the board.
Up in lights.
Up in lights. Let's talk about photos. So how many photos do you have of you probably before you went to school?
I don't know, maybe 10, 15 if you're lucky. I don't even know where they all are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Lisa?
I've got a handful myself. Mum's got more. But, yeah, I'm usually – so it's funny because at Mum's, she's got all our baby photos up on the wall, but I'm in one just me and my sister. But most people get their own baby photo.
Yeah.
So, I've got to move on. Let it go.
Well, we've got a wall that's at my mother's house, and it's got all of the grandchildren and me. None of the other siblings of me because I belong. Well, because I belong to the next lot.
Yeah.
So that's the way it works.
Yeah.
And how many photos would have been of your older siblings? Do you think?
Well, Yeah, that's a good question, Ed. I'm sorry, I probably haven't done my research on
that's
that,
right.
but there are a lot of the first two, I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we've got a lot in general. Like, I don't think anyone had a lot. There's a lot of groups of the first five, the famous five together. They actually had portraits together.
Five.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
actually, the first
fantastic.
6 in ours had the portrait where, Paul's in the sailor suit and, they've all had their hair done and I can't remember what the others were wearing. But, yeah, they were all, very decked out. And then it's like, then the 2 more came along. But they went in that photo.
You
Proper
say
photo.
you say the famous 5. Is your family split into parts?
I think so. I think there's
Yeah.
the 5 because they're all very close, and then the 3. Although Kate sort of gravitates in between the middle, I think. So she's the 6th child. But yeah, the first 5, there's lots of photos of them opening Christmas presents, or not lots. There are photos of them doing those sorts of things. And they have all the memories together as well. The things that I don't remember at all, I've heard about a lot. But I don't remember those things. But they all can laugh and talk about things that they did together.
Yeah. Was your family, was there 2 halves or more than?
Yeah, I don't remember maybe that exactly. I think the older 2 have, my 2 oldest brothers probably have memories from things that they would have just done that is kind of unique to the other 6, funnily enough. The boarding school thing was one, living in places that we didn't live in, because the rest of us were in Warragul, and then Torquay. So, and then there's probably the bottom 6 that have memories because, the older 2 were out of home, and then the younger 6, we all moved down to Torquay, went to school in Geelong, caught buses into the schools here, and lived in the house. First in Janjark, then moved out to Torquay Heights into a bigger house. So, yeah, the sharing of the bedrooms was around the 6 that were there then. So, still the 4 girls and 2 boys.
Yeah, so that sort of created that anyway. So in our case, it was the 4 at the top because we had one pass away at that point, and then the 5 little boys. And we've always been known as the 5 little boys. And so it's almost like two halves of the family. So it's sister's the youngest of the first half, and I'm the youngest of the second half.
Okay.
Wow.
So that's sort of the formation. And I've come across that before. People have said that about that.
Yeah, and I would say that my sister and I, so we were 7 and 8 of the 8. So Claire and I were the 2 youngest, and we were referred to as the littlies. Yeah. And we would often be doing things together with mum and dad because everybody else was kind of having their own social life.
Yeah. How would your parents introduce you? Because I know how my mother still does. When she says to someone, would she say, this is the youngest or this is...
Our baby.
Yeah,
our baby.
This is the baby.
Yep. My dad even said that at my wedding. He said, Lisa is our baby.
Yeah.
So, and I was 30 years old.
Yeah, Dora, I still get it now. And mum always refers to me as the baby
Yeah.
when she introduces me to someone. There's never an introduction that doesn't have, he's the baby on it.
Yeah.
Talk to you about playing siblings. What sort of stuff did you do? Games? How'd you keep yourself entertained?
Spotlight, because we lived out on 5 acres at Torquay, and so we had heaps of room, and hot summer night, it was great. You could be outside, lots of cricket, and the boys would be like, come out and field. I never got to bat much, but I was good enough to go and run and chase the ball, and occasionally I'd get to bat, but not for long. And just sort of like we'd go to the beach a lot in Torquay too.
Yeah. We didn't get to go to the beach in Denison, but we did have a above ground pool. Probably the younger kids, not the older kids, and getting in that and making a whirlpool was like big deal. But Spotlight and Murder in the Dark.
Oh yeah, Murder in the Dark, great game.
And hide and seek and all of that. But we used to have pampas grass, and we'd pull the pampas grass out and play high jump or hurdles and sword fights and things like that.
I've got another one it was a good way to get out of doing the dishes, actually. So we had to do the dishes every night because, there are a lot of dishes, no dishwasher. So I'd be like, come on, get those dishes done. But instead we'd take the oven mitts and put them on and pretend that we were having a boxing match and run into the middle of the kitchen and someone would yell out ding ding and you'd sort of not really hurting each other but just mucking around, flicking tea towels, just anything to get out of doing the dishes.
That does sound familiar.
And how did you go as being the youngest in that play situation? Were you the patsy or you always the one who had to go and do the thing that no one else wanted to do? How did that work out?
Oh, yeah. This came with being the youngest in my family. So we used to go to Mass every week. And often on a Saturday night after Mass, we'd be in the back of the car. And so that was something as well, the station wagon and the seating arrangements and all of that stuff. But anyhow, we'll get into that later. But I'd be in the back, in the middle with, 3 others. And I'd be getting elbowed in the side. Come on, you ask Mum and Dad. You ask Mum and Dad. If you ask for ice creams, they won't say no because you're the youngest. Come on. And so I'd have to say, Mum, can we get an ice cream? Because they'd be like, if we ask, they'll just say no to us. So, yeah, that was a special job.
Yeah, I'd say I probably wasn't rough and tumbled as much as the others.
Yeah.
I do remember some good haymakers going on in the hallways between siblings, but I probably was on the edge of that. Didn't get crow-pecked as hard as the others, or the camel bite on the leg, that sort of stuff. But I do remember them shooting, or my brother particularly, shooting me with the slug gun as I'd run, because we had our grandparents on the farm as well in another house just right next door. So I'd be skipping over to Grandma and Granddad's and get shot by the slug gun with, I think a matches, not slugs.
We used to get shot with slugs.
Yeah, right. It might have been slugs. I don't remember. But I had, similar to Lise, we'd go to the lolly shop after Mass on a Sunday, and Mr. Walker, who owned, this is the story that they tell, Mr. Walker, who owned the lolly shop, would give me a free little bag of lollies. But one day I said, Mr. Walker, do you know what the kids call you? And he's like, no. And I said, they call you Squawker Walker. And apparently that was the end of the free lollies, and they were all a bit annoyed at me for that one. But I was thinking about the lollies too. So whatever, you used to get a big bag of lollies, don't know what that was, maybe 50 cents or $1 maybe, I don't know. And my sister Josie would often have the responsibility of putting them into piles. So everyone got a milk bottle, everyone got a chocolate bud, everyone got a mate, everyone got a whatever. And I can just still see all the piles out on the table of everyone's lollies.
So you had a way to get home before you divvied up the lollies?
Well, that might have been a different situation. I can't remember if after Mass we all bought something and got a treat or not. But, yeah.
I thought it was a given that if you went to Mass, you were going to get one, because that was the only way they were going to get you to go to Mass. That was the bribe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Done and dusted.
Yeah.
You mentioned it before. I was going to bring it up, is the travelling in a car. How did you get around?
Well, once, Jerry and Mick were no longer around, they sort of had their own cars, and it was very special if you got to go in the car with them. That was very exciting. And they always had exciting cars, like panel van or something that was, E.H. Holden's, part of the floor was missing. It was sort of exciting territory. But Mum and Dad had this yellow Ford station wagon with a bull bar. Don't know why about the bull bar, because we didn't live out where there were kangaroos or anything. But anyway, we called it the Yellow Banana. And the seating arrangements were Claire and I in the back in the pull-up seats that would face the oncoming traffic. And then there would be 3 in the middle. And then there was a seat between Mum and Dad in the front, and my brother would sit in the middle of Mum and Dad. So that's how...
so there's two seats in the back of the station wagon, facing
seats.
The old
backwards.
dicky seats.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, eh? Yeah, we had a station wagon. We didn't have the dicky seats. We just get thrown in there.
Yeah.
How did you travel?
Yeah, we had an old blue Holden station wagon, and generally, probably we all weren't ever in it at the one time. I don't know, but we'd go to the Ormonds often on a Sunday, or Grandma's in Maffra, and we'd all pile in, and little ones over in the dog box. But I used to sit on the floor under Mum's feet under the glove box, and I loved it under there because the heater would go under there and I could see the lights in the glove box. It was really special, but not very safe.
So you're in the front, in the seat
Yeah.
of the passenger seat at the front.
Where Mum's feet went.
And how far would you drive when you're in there?
So Denison to Newry, or Denison to Maffra, so 30 minutes.
Yeah, 30 minutes.
On bumpy roads and in an old car. But the fun thing about the station wagon was, if we'd go to the Ormonds, for example, we'd always stow someone over the back, and we'd get halfway home and go, oh, Mum, Dad, Leonie's here. like, surprise. And you're halfway home, so they're not going to turn around and go back.
Usually the stories you've left one behind, you haven't picked one up.
Well, there may well be a swap. There possibly was a swap. Paul, my brother, would have stayed over there and we would have taken Leonie or some such thing.
The next stage of travelling in a how do you travel is holidays. Did you ever go on holidays? So you're probably an interesting one because you lived in holiday land a bit, didn't you?
That's right. We did need to go on holidays, but I don't remember a lot of family holidays. But I do remember one trip where Claire and I, very lucky, feeling very upmarket, we got to go to the Grampians, just us and mum and dad, and stay in a motel, and that was pretty exciting because there weren't too many holidays like that. So it was simple things, really. Just a lot of the time it was people coming and staying with us, actually. Yeah. That was more what the holidays were that I remember. Or we'd go and stay with our cousins, cousins coming and staying with us. And, because they had big families too. And my cousins' families were 6 kids in one, 7 in one, and then another lot of them there were 10 in one of those families. So, for them to go and have another, child come and stay, that was sort of no big deal because they were dishing out big meals anyway. Yeah. But, there were no flights to the Gold Coast or anything like that.
Yeah.
No, very similar. Sea Spray was our big holiday. So we'd go down to the the 90 Mile Beach and rent a really shabby holiday house with the Ormonds and a few McQuillans, and everyone just pile in together. And it wasn't luxurious at all, but we kind of made do. And Dad would rarely come because he'd stay home and milk the cows. He may come down for one night. And then other trips were like Dad's sister lived in Bentley, so going to Melbourne, and then we had friends in Altona, the Woodlands in Altona, so I'd go down there and stay down there, and that was like a huge adventure.
And did you get to sit in a seat when you went to Altona?
Probably the back, just the back. Probably wasn't a lot of people, just me and maybe my brother. Paul, yeah. But same as Lise, because we're on the farm and we had grandma and granddad, a lot of Rotherham cousins would come and stay for a week, 2 weeks. So there was always visitors, basically, which was a hell of a lot of fun. Yeah. A lot of water fights and silly shenanigans going on with Dad and his nieces and nephews, my cousins.
We're going to pause our conversation with Angela and Lisa there. Tune into our next episode where we continue our chat and hear about crazy meal times, wild parties, and whether they think they were spoiled. So thanks for listening. You can find more of The Baby wherever you found this episode, and you can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. Get in touch and tell us what you think. Or if you're the youngest and you'd like to have a chat, then give us a yell. We'll catch you next time.
The Baby podcast acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which it was recorded and pays respects to elders past, present and emerging, as well as all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Music for this podcast is by Serge Pavkin Music. The Baby podcast takes no responsibility for any legal or personal disputes that may arise from this podcast. The Baby podcast is written and presented by Ed Gannon. This has been a Media Means production.